They were wrong about China. They were wrong about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which would have been a disaster if I didn't terminate it. If I didn't terminate
After hours
United Auto Workers, you would have had no jobs in this country. You would have had no jobs. Right behind the Resolute desk or whichever desk they chose. Japan, 46%. They would charge us 46%, and much higher for certain items like cars.
I mean, look,
little items
he
like
expertly
cars.
is doing this after
46%. We're
hours.
charging them 24%. India, very, very tough. Very, very tough. The Prime Minister just left. And he's a great friend of mine, but I said, you're a friend of mine.
I can't see this.
You're not treating us right. They charge us 52%. You have to understand, we charge them almost nothing for years and years and decades. And it was only 7 years ago when I came in, we started with China and charged them. We took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China in tariffs. And they understood, honestly. President Xi understood. He said, look, I understand. And the other countries, and they all understand. We're going to have to go through a little tough love, maybe. But they all understand. They're ripping us off, and they understood it. Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe. He was a fantastic man. He
loves Shinzo.
Unfortunately, taken from us, assassination. But I went to him and I said, Shinzo,
if only Shinzo could see me now.
We have to do something. Trade is not fair. And he said, I know that. I know that. And he was a great gentleman. He was a fantastic man. But he understood immediately what I was talking about. I said, Shinzo, we have to do something. He said, I know that. And we worked out a deal, and it would have been a much better deal.
Third world again.
Frankly, there were many years left on the deal that was made previous to my getting there, but it was something.
Tariffs are a tax on our own citizens, by the way.
Switzerland, 61% to 31%. Indonesia, Malaysia, Cambodia. Oh, look at Cambodia, 97%. We're going to bring it down to 49. They made a fortune with the United States of America. United Kingdom, 10%, and we'll go 10%. So we'll do the same thing. South Africa, 60%, 30%.
Guess when he brought out the chart?
Bad things going on in South Africa. You know, we're paying
them.
What do you
mean?
Billions of dollars, and we cut the funding because a lot of bad things are happening in South Africa. The fake news ought to be looking at it. They don't want to report it. Brazil, 10%, 10%. Bangladesh is 74%. So you see what's going on. Pakistan, 58%. Sri Lanka, 88%. So what we're doing is we're taking not the full, we could take the full 88%. Thanks a lot. He's doing a very good job. How's he doing, all right?
He's doing a great job.
I think you better take it with you. It's not going to last very long. He's going to put it, it's going to follow you down with the wind. I brought a hat just in case it got too windy, but here, would anybody like a hat? I'm not giving it to a cabinet. I'm giving it to the auto workers.
I caught it. I caught it, Mr. President. Oh.
Thank you, fellas. Get it. That's it. That's it.
Hell yeah. Make the treat
more than our cabinet.
Scream, Mr. President.
Our cabinet has plenty of hats. But you see the numbers. The numbers are so disproportionate. They're so unfair. At the same time, we will establish a minimum baseline tariff of 10%. You notice that on the chart?
Let me see where this was made.
That'll be on other countries to help rebuild our economy and to prevent cheating.
It doesn't say where this hat was made, Mr. President.
And we're going to be very severe on the people that at the gate that watch the tariffs and watch the product coming in, because there's been a lot of bad things happening at the gate.
It's got an American flag on it, though.
The money is so enormous that you're talking about. There's never been probably anything like it in terms of the enormity.
Doesn't have a tag on it. Don't know where it was made, but I think I can suspect.
They're looking at 10-year jail sentences if they do play. We're going to treat them so good, but if they cheat, the repercussions are going to be extremely strong. Foreign nations will finally be asked to pay for the privilege of access to our market, the biggest market in the world. We're right now the biggest market in the world. We had a great country 4 years ago in terms of the economics. We were doubling up on China. We were doing so well. Nobody was going to catch us, but so much of it slipped away over the last 4 years under Biden. I campaigned on this policy throughout last year, and today that promise was made, and it was also a promise, as you know, that was kept. Promises made, promises kept. To any company that objects to our common sense reciprocal tariffs, again, reciprocal, back and forth, back and forth. And I call this kind reciprocal. This is not full reciprocal. This is kind reciprocal. But what we do is we cut it in half. We charge them. My answer is very simple. If they complain, if you want your tariff rate to be zero, then you build your product right here in America, because there is no tariff if you build your plant, your product in America. And we've seen companies coming in like we've never seen before. Likewise to all of the foreign presidents, prime ministers, kings, queens, ambassadors, and everyone else who will soon be calling to ask for exemptions from these tariffs. I say, terminate your own tariffs, drop your barriers, don't manipulate your currencies. They manipulate their currencies like nobody can even believe, which is a bad, bad thing and very devastating to us. And start buying tens of billions of dollars of American goods. Tariffs give our country protection against those that would do us economic harm. And many people were looking to do us economic harm. Maybe not so obviously, but they were doing tremendous economic harm. But even more importantly, they will give us growth. These tariffs are going to give us growth like you haven't seen before. And it'll be something very special to watch. I am so looking forward. And Brian, it's going to happen even faster than you said. You know, you might say, but it's already started. It's already started. Work's already begun on plants all around the country. And you see that as before. These are big, rich companies. We have $61 billion started on a big plant going up. It's going to be announced over the next 2 days, and they already started work. Many of these biggest companies in the world,
2% in 45 seconds.
They've committed to build. We're going to build, sir. And they came here to see me, and they wanted to know if they could have a press conference. I do as many as I can. I'm pretty busy trying to stop Russia and Ukraine and the Middle East. We got to stop that. We got to stop the Houthis, which we're making tremendous. They like shooting ships down and out of the water, sinking ships. They get a kick out of it, but they're not getting such a kick out of it now, are they, Mr. Secretary? They're not getting such a kick out of that now. But here are just a short list of some of the companies that have already announced and committed to investment. And this is a company that built its factories and its plants in China. Apple is going to spend $500 billion. They never spent money like that here. They're going to build their plants here. SoftBank, OpenAI, and Oracle, great companies, are investing $500 billion almost immediately. NVIDIA, a hot company, is investing hundreds of billions of dollars. They just announced. TSMC, the biggest, most important company in the world of chips from Taiwan, with no investment from us, is investing $200 billion. And they said the reason was, number one, the election of November 5th, and number two, the tariffs. They don't want to pay the tariffs, and the way they're not paying it is to build their plant here. So we're going to go from almost no percentage. We used to have 100% of the chip market. Now it's all in Taiwan. Almost all of it's in Taiwan, a couple of other countries, but mostly in Taiwan. And think of it, we had 100%. We lost it because of people in that office that didn't do their job. They allowed it to be stolen from us. Johnson & Johnson, great company, $55 billion. Eli Lilly, $27 billion. Meta is investing $500 billion. Wow. DeMac is investing $20 billion. CMA, CGM, $20 billion. And then you have Merck and Clarios, Stellantis, General Motors, GE Aerospace, Honda,
They're
Nissan,
like, oh,
Hyundai are all putting in billions and billions of dollars, and they're committed 100%.
In between them talking about
and
me
we
being
have never had
of higher view counts for Asmongold, the dumbasses are talking about how it's going to lower the prices of fucking chips and GPUs.
What everybody wanted to do. You know, I watched a gentleman today on television. He used to work with Lee Iacocca, a very respected automobile person,
dumb.
And he said, you know, because they're asking people, they try and get as many negative people as they can, but they can't find them too much. It's pretty hard to find in terms of what we're doing, especially when they see all this investment.
What are you liberated?
Said, so
what
tell
are you being
me,
liberated from today? Your wallets.
Trump is doing
the remaining money in your wallets. That's what you're being liberated from.
I can't believe it. somebody is finally, he's an older guy, real pro, really top guy, with Lee Iacocca. He said, I never thought I'd see the day when this would happen, where somebody had the courage to go and do what has to be done. This is transforming our nation. Our entire nation is going to be transformed, not only with the cars, but on every single other item that's built. We're going to become an industrial powerhouse. And he said that so beautifully today. In fact, I'm going to find out, I'm going to get a tape. And Bruce, I'm going to get that tape and I'm going to send it to you out in Long Island, and you're going to play it for the people. And all your union workers and your non-union workers out there, you got a pretty even split. But we have, so far, it looks like we're going to have about $6 trillion of investments, and you wouldn't do that in years.
Jeff Stein tagging
in this country over the last
Don
number
Hughes
of
is
years.
so funny.
$6 trillion.
17%
and that's
on
going to be
Israel
much higher
is
by the
hilarious.
end of the year. And think of what $6 trillion is. You wouldn't have even a small percentage of that under this other system. We're going to be an entirely
if Wall
different
Street,
country.
maybe BlackRock did actually hire Thomas Crooks, dude. Maybe Wall Street did hire Thomas Crooks. Thinking about the impact this is going to have on the American economy, perhaps they did know, and they were like, we have to cut it out immediately.
Executives and presidents of big public companies, and to watch the enthusiasm they have now that they didn't have. They gave up on our country. They went to foreign countries and they built. Companies are pouring into our country at levels never seen before, with jobs and money to follow, and it's really beautiful. In the coming days, there will be complaints from the globalists and the outsourcers and special interests and the fake news. Always, the fake news will always complain. But never forget, every prediction our opponents made about trade for the last 30 years has been proven totally wrong. They were wrong about NAFTA. They were wrong about China. They were wrong about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which would have been a disaster if I didn't terminate it. If I didn't terminate
After
that,
hours
United Auto Workers, you would have had no jobs in this country. You would have had no jobs. It was all going to other countries. In my first term, they said tariffs would crash the economy. Instead, we built the greatest economy in the history of the world. And again, I have great respect for President Xi of China, great respect for China, but they were taking tremendous advantage of us, and I commend them for that. I say, hey, if you can get away with it, that's okay. But, you know, they understand exactly what's happening, and they probably, most of them are saying it's about time they did something, but, and they're going to fight, and they're going to fight fair. Everyone's going to fight. You know, it's like, I say to the leaders, look, you got to take care of your country, but we have to start taking care of our country now. We can't do what we've been doing for the last 50 years. From the day of my election, the stock market went up in my first term 88%, with NASDAQ going up 155%, more than any president has ever had in any term in office, by far. And I think we're going to blow that away. And maybe the numbers won't show, but I think they're going to show much better than even those numbers. But what you're going to see is you're going to see activity, that empty, dead sites, factories that are falling down. Those factories will be knocked down, and they're going to have brand new factories built in their place. They're not only talking about renovating, they're talking about brand new, the best anywhere in the world, the biggest anywhere in the world. I have a friend who builds car plants, and I said, I want to see the biggest and the best. He said, well, we have to go to Mexico. I said, no, I want to see it in the United States. He said, we're not building them in there. This is a year and a half ago during the campaign. He said, we're not building it. You'd have to go to Mexico. When I was starting to decide to run, and I went to #1 in the polls very rapidly, I want to say, like, let's say in the first hour. And then shortly thereafter, it looked like I was going to win, and the fake news was saying, oh, no, don't do this. What they don't know is if I didn't win, they would have really been in trouble, because nobody wants to read them anyway. But I tell you what, when it looked like I was going to win, I announced that I was going to be doing exactly what we're talking about today. Great consistency, actually, because I've been talking about it for 40 years.
What do you say?
Because I saw what was happening 40 years ago. If you look at my old speeches when I was young, very handsome, my old speeches, and that people would say I'd be on a television show. I'd be talking about how we were being ripped off by these countries. I mean, nothing changes very much. The only thing that changed were the countries, but nothing really changes. But it's why it's such an honor. It's such an honor to be finally able to do this. If you look at China, I took in hundreds of billions of dollars in my term. Hundreds of billions. They never paid 10 cents to any other president, and yet they paid hundreds of billions, so much so that Biden couldn't do anything. They wanted to try and terminate it because he had a very special relationship with China.
I'm in private equity. We just passed correction territory and are now strongly in recession territory in the market.
But the numbers were so big.
What do you mean, dude? What recession? He's building factories tomorrow. It takes only a couple weeks, dude. And then to hire all of the labor after also gutting half of the labor force in the country with these insane decisions of, instead of documenting them, enforcing this rigid immigration agenda. I'm sure things will be fine.
Very bad election. A lot of bad things happen. So
it takes like what, a couple days to build a factory and then hire and train a competent labor force? What do you mean? It's fine.
Monumental win.
It's fine.
It was such an honor to see so many of you, like Brian and your friends.
Also, to build the factory, you do need a workforce to begin with. So it's good. It's good that we have that workforce.
Because this will be an entirely different country in a short period of time. It'll be something the whole world will be talking about it. The critics made the very tired predictions earlier this year, but in February, core inflation dropped to the lowest rate in 4 years. And the price of eggs, as you know, just in a month and a half, we were there for 4 weeks. And the first week, I got blamed for eggs. I said, I just got here. They said eggs have gone up at like 250%, and you can't get eggs. And they were going crazy. And I said, I just got here. And then we got to work on eggs, and we got to work on everything. And our great Secretary of Agriculture, you did a fantastic job. Brooke Rollins, she did a fantastic job. And as I said before, the price of eggs dropped now 59%, and they're going down more, and the availability is fantastic. They were saying that for Easter, please don't use eggs. Could you use plastic eggs? I said, we don't want to do that. We want to, and you really came through. It's an amazing job. Thank you very much, Brooke. You did great. But likewise, an old-fashioned term that we use, groceries. I used it in the campaign. It's such an old-fashioned term, but a beautiful term, groceries. It sort of says a bag with different things in it. Groceries went through the roof, and I campaigned on that. I talked about the word groceries for a lot, and energy costs now are down. Groceries are down. Gasoline is way under $3, and people are beginning to be able to buy things and live again. We brought prices way down. We created 10,000 already in a few weeks, new manufacturing jobs. And it was that took place in 1 month, numbers that they haven't seen in a long time. We had virtually no inflation under my term. We had virtually no inflation for 4 years. But after transitioning over to Sleepy Joe, it went from almost non-existent to the highest in the history of our country. They had the highest inflation in the history of our country, brought up by energy and bad spending and bad policy, and a lot of bad things happened. How about allowing millions and millions and millions of people to pour into our country with open borders?
We're putting a tariff on cum. You will never be able to jerk off ever again.
And I see
no more coming.
You have done. Stand up, please, Christy.
Last term, I had a pandemic. Now you're going to have a pandemic.
These people are doing a great job, but gotten them out in records. We have problems with judges that don't want them to go out. They want Tren de Aragua, and they want MS-13, the most vicious gangs ever. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Absolute killer gangs. They kill people. They don't even think about it. And we put them out, and we have judges now, radical left judges that want to.
You're going to say, please, sir, I want to come.
They want them to even be brought back.
I'm going to tell you, no more coming. You will never come again.
Please thank everybody. Homeland Security, thank everybody. Appreciate it. And we now have a border that's the best border that we've ever had, even better than it was my first term. My first term we did good, but this one we really specialized in. We've done really well. And we had records then. We had the best, safest border 4 years ago. We had the best border there ever was. And now we have, you've actually matched it and done even better. And we're going to get it down the right way. And we want people, by the way, to come into our country, but we want them to come in through a legal process. We want them to come in legally. We need more people. We need people to run these plants and to help the auto workers and the Teamsters and the non-union people and everybody else. But we need people and the farmers. And we're going to let people come in, but they want to come in. We want them to come in legally. They have to have the capability of loving our country, not people that hate our country. We don't want them in our country. And now we're going to pass the largest tax cuts in American history, and that's where we're relying on Mike and John Thune.
Uh-oh.
And we will not cut Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid benefits, and the Democrats will, because if they got in, the entire economy would collapse. This country is heading for a collapse.
Amazing. So
the people
mass
that you saw.
So complete fucking
horrible.
tax cuts.
I think one of the reasons
and then a
people
mass
like the
sales
job.
tax.
I had my highest approval ratings because
the dream of the Republican project finally
the worst
realized.
Administration in the history of our country. So I appreciate that at least. But Speaker of the House Mike Johnson and Senate Majority Leader, appreciate it, Mike. John Thune have been fantastic.
No more progressive taxation. I hate
but they've
progress.
been working tirelessly
I hate progressive
on
taxes.
taking the next step to pass the
Only
plan
regressive,
for our
folks.
one big, beautiful bill. I'd like to name it that if you can. One big, I made that statement about 6 months ago, and everybody calls it one big, beautiful bill. And it will be that. It'll have everything, the big tax cuts and every incentive there is, and it'll be fantastic. And by the way, for the cars, we're asking for an interest deduction on a loan. So if you build the car, only in America we do it, Brian. If the car's not built in America, you don't get the interest rate deduction. But if you build the car in America, if you buy a car, if it's built in America, then you get an interest rate deduction, tax deduction, and that's a big thing. It's going to be a big thing. I think that's going to pay for itself very quickly, that deduction. Never happened. We've never had anything like that before. Somebody said, where do you get the idea? Because it's so basic. You would think that would have happened a long time ago. It never did, and I'm very happy it didn't, because now I can say that was my idea. But we're going to get us closer to the debt extension. We have to get the debt extension passed, and I know you're going to be able to do that, Mike, and it's very important that you do that. And all of the other things that the Senate budget plan gives us, along with working, because I know they're working together, John and Mike, and the two bills are going very well together. We need to get our shared priorities done, including certain permanent tax cuts. We want the tax cuts to be permanent, spending cuts, energy and historic investments in defense, border, and so much more. We're covering everything. These will be phenomenal. There'll be no bill like this going to straighten. One bill is going to straighten out our country for many, many years to come. And we said, let's just do it and let's get it done. And some guys will love it and some guys will like it a little bit less because they're not getting what they were exactly looking for, but they're getting a lot. They'll never, if we get this done, it'll be the most incredible bill ever passed in the history of our Congress and Senate and congressmen, the senators and the congressmen, many of whom are here today, will be very proud of themselves. I really believe that. It's going to set us on a whole new prosperous path. We're going to cut spending and right-size the budget back to where it should be. We're going to do that very strongly. Thank you, Rick. Thank you. John, thank you. Oh, look at all of our senators over there. Oh, boy, that's a nice group of people. But I won't like them so much if they don't get this bill done. That's a great group. And Congressman, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Tremendous people. The Senate plan has my complete and total support, and the House plan likewise is very similar. They're moving along pretty much at the same clip, and as soon as you're ready, you'll show it to me, and I'm sure it'll have my support, Mike. Every Republican congressman and senator must unify. We have to unify. We can't be separated. We have to get it done. We have to get absolutely everything we can, and we have to take care of the American people. That's the only thing that matters. We have to take care of the American people first. We need to pass this bill immediately, get it done, including debt extension. From this day on, we're not going to let anyone tell us that American workers and families cannot have the future that they deserve. We're going to produce the cars and ships, chips, airplanes, minerals, and medicines that we need right here in America. The pharmaceutical companies are going to become roaring back. They're coming roaring back. They're all coming back to our country because if they don't, they got a big tax to pay. And if they do, I'll be very happy, and you're going to be very happy, and you're going to be very safe. We're going to build our future with American hands, with American heart, American steel, and we're going to build it with American pride like we used to. We're approaching our 100th day as president and have been given credit by a lot of people, actually, even some of the fake news. Can you believe it? Which in this case, hopefully,
they'll definitely be giving you credit for
having
this.
done more in that time than
they'll
any other
definitely be crediting you for what's going on
in
now.
the history
Trust
of our
me.
country in the first 100 days. I think we've had an amazing in terms of what we've done, what we've gotten accomplished. I'd like to see if we can get that war ended and another war from not starting in the Middle East. We have to get Russia. They're losing 2,000 on average, 2,500 people today, young people, soldiers, Russian. Think of that, 2,500 through some days, but on average, probably over about a 1 week period, it's 2,712. They say they're losing those soldiers. They're dying. They're being decimated, and they're not from our country, but they're from other countries.
Yeah,
but
I'm noticing a lack of Elon being mentioned in this speech.
Ukraine in this period.
You guys notice that too?
And we're going to get it
I wonder
stopped.
what happened.
It's a senseless war that would have never happened if I was president, and it shouldn't be allowed to go on. And I think we're being given good cooperation by Russia and by Ukraine, but we have to get it stopped. It's humanity. It's humanity. It's a terrible thing. This will be a very big moment. I think you're going to remember today. It's going to be a free nation that we're dealing with. We're going to have a very free and beautiful nation. It's going to be Liberation Day in America, and it's going to be a day that hopefully you're going to look back in years to come and you're going to say, you know, he was right. This has turned out to be one of the most important days in the history of our country. God bless you and God bless America. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much.
So there you have it, President Trump in the Rose Garden at the White House on what he has dubbed Liberation Day when it comes to the economy. He has announced reciprocal tariffs against countries all over the world. He has said basically what we are going to do is reciprocal tariffs charge countries what they charge us to sell our products in their countries. And instead of charging them exactly what they charge us, in his words, and we have to take his numbers for what they are at this moment, that the U.S. will charge half as much as what other countries are doing.
Why would you take his word?
Examples. He said China, and this is the number calculated by the White House, they charge 67% in tariffs on American goods and other charges. So the U.S. will now charge 34%. The EU, our allies, he says they rip us off. He says they charge about 39% in tariffs and other charges. We will charge them now about half that, 20%. It went down the list of a number of countries. He said Vietnam, our allies, he said, I like them, but they charge us 90%. We'll charge them about half that at about 40%.
Look, I will say this much, okay? The markets might be screaming at this moment, but ultimately, that's not the most reliable metric for seeing the damage that this will do. So they'll fucking rebound tomorrow. You know what I mean? But what's important to understand here is what will most likely happen to U.S. trade, and specifically the cost of goods. The cost of goods is going to go up a lot. A better indication of how you feel, a better indication of how you experience the economy will be inflation.
From here moving forward.
Well, the negotiation that could happen going forward is certainly on the table here. And he even sort of opened the door to that as he was talking to the audience there, saying we can have conversations with these foreign countries. But the big headline here is that this is based on the White House's math. But these are very high numbers. A 34% tariff on China, a 20% tariff on the EU, 26% on India, and that 10% minimum. That's not insignificant.
Let's go to Rachel Scott. Scott right there in the Rose Garden. Rachel, the temperature there in the garden. She's standing by for us momentarily. Mary Bruce is on the other side of the White House. Mary, as Rebecca says, these are historic tariffs not seen at this level at quick math here since the early 1900s. This would be an extraordinary shift, and we did not hear a lot from the president about any immediate impact on the American consumer, the customer who goes to the grocery store, the mall, the auto lot to buy a car. We didn't hear a lot of detail about what the initial impact could be here.
Yeah, I
No,
wonder
we didn't.
why.
Look, the president is adamant that these tariffs are going to boost the U.S. economy, that it's going to spur a renaissance in American manufacturing. But economists have warned that that takes time, that it could be months or even years to boost production on American soil. And in the meantime, they say American consumers are going to bear the brunt of this, that costs are going to skyrocket. The president didn't touch on that in these lengthy remarks. Now, in the past, he has said that Americans should be braced for some short-term pain. The question is, how long is that pain going to last? And when pressed on that, in recent days, the White House has said simply that Americans need to trust the president and have faith. David.
Mary Bruce, right there at the White House, at the Rose Garden. Rachel Scott also standing by. Rachel, I understand you can hear me now. There you are, with the crowd there behind you. They liked what they were hearing. And of course, the question is how our allies will respond to this around the world, our friends around the world, with these extraordinarily high tariffs that the president says are long overdue. And again, what the initial impact, and when I say initial, this could be in many weeks, several months, if you will, because also economists say if you want to bring products back to America, it's going to take quite some time before that can get up and running.
Doug, how long do you think
Exactly,
it would take to
David.
build a
And
factory?
even those who are here, steel workers, auto workers, they acknowledge that while they are supportive of the president's plan, that this is not going to be like a light switch on and off, that this could take time, months and years.
Even once you build the factory and you hire the workers and you train the workers, it's going to take a long time for them to even build the factory, to even get the workers and train the workers to build the factory to begin with. But even after that, there's a runway here that is tremendously long, much longer than the couple months that they're suggesting. Okay? But also, on top of that, the fucking goods that they need, the materials that they need to do manufacturing that are coming from outside of the United States, the cost of that is going up too. It's so stupid.
BCNews.com. For many of you, your local news is standing by right here in the East. And of course, I'll be back here with the entire team for World News Tonight. I'm David Muir in New York. Good day.
Why the long face, David? Get it? Because he has a long face. Yeah. American Glorious Liberation Day. Liberating us from living in a treat the right nation where you at least could have goods.
Most of the party
affordability
is
for
diving
goods.
headlong into this, squarely behind Donald Trump. It does show his clout in the Republican Party to change free traders into pro-tariff Republican senators.
It has been Democrats who.
I think it's a warning sign because we have 18 special elections in this year so far, and 17 out of the 18 Democrats have won because they do not believe, the American people do not believe that he's doing enough to lower costs. So if costs go up, it's a big red flag for Republicans because I'm not sure they can come back from it.
And it sounds like they are, in fact, going to go up in the short term. We'll see about the long term. Jake Tapper standing by for the lead. Starts right now.
This is CNN
Zero
breaking
tariffs
news.
on Russia? What kind of trade do we have
Welcome
with
to the
Russia
lead,
at
and
this
I am
point?
Jake Tapper. Our breaking news just moments ago. President Trump officially announcing widespread, what he calls reciprocal tariffs, at least 10% on practically all goods coming into the United States, plus higher rates on dozens of countries that have the highest trade deficits with the United States.
But we will charge them approximately half of what they are and have been charging us. So the tariffs will be not a full reciprocal. I could have done that, yes, but it would have been tough for a lot of countries who didn't want to do that.
I do like the sneaky move that they did where they added that in the fine print. They added this tiny thing where they're like, well, they're doing currency manipulation and other restrictions in trade, like making it seem as though there's, when you add that in the fine print, obviously it could be anything that they're talking about to make this calculation.
The world
it's not
economy
fucking
could end
tariffs.
up impacting every American in the short term and the long term, raising prices in the short term at a time when budgets are already stretched thin from years of inflation. President Trump says that the tariffs in the long run will create more jobs in the United States and revive certain manufacturing sectors and even entire regions by forcing companies to relocate their manufacturing to the United States, in some cases back to the United States. It is a gamble and it is risky. Some Republican lawmakers are not sold.
In the long run, we're all dead. Short run matters too.
Bro, I'm sorry, but the fucking liberal media is so cucked by Donald Trump. If Joe Brandon did something like this, they would be calling to assassinate him. Okay? But when it's Trump doing it, they're like, well, it's a risky gamble.
They're both
I fucking hate the media,
Let's go straight to the White House
so much.
Our own Caitlin Collins. Caitlin, walk us through the
Once again, I'm jealous. I'm jealous of Trump's riz. I'm jealous that he's able to fucking do this.
They just got it from President Trump as he made this announcement.
The market reaction after hours, I've never seen anything like this. This is worse than the worst case scenario in terms of what the market expected. CNBC reporting that the 10% baseline will go into effect on April 5th. The reciprocal tariffs will go into effect on April 9th. Canada and Mexico tariff stays at 25%. The White House is not looking for deals on this.
2 or 3 times higher than that as part of those reciprocal tariffs for what the White House and the president have determined are unfair trading practices, they say, against some of these closest U.S. allies that now will be paying much higher than that baseline rate. And just looking at this right off the bat, Jake, you see European Union, it is going to be a 20% reciprocal tariff. Taiwan, 32%. Vietnam, 46% reciprocal tariff. Japan is coming in at 24%. And India at 26%. Just to give you a small preview, Jake, into these tariffs that the White House is now going to be implementing. We've heard from senior officials about varying dates of when those tariffs will go into place. The president said immediately just now, in addition to that 25% tariff on all foreign-made cars. What you are seeing here are the most expansive tariffs that we have seen from President Trump, including from his first term. And as he noted here in the Rose Garden, this is something he's been talking about for decades and certainly did on the campaign trail this time around. But of course, the question is how other nations will respond to this and how the stock market will respond to this. The White House seemed to suggest earlier in a briefing with reporters that they have very little appetite for any kind of haggling with countries that are trying to reduce their tariffs in the lead up to this to try to get this to be lower. And also they issued a warning, Jake, to countries that have promised they will retaliate in response to these new tariffs from President Trump.
All right, Caitlin Collins, thanks so much. Look out for Caitlin in just a few hours on The Source. That's weeknights at 9 Eastern, only here on CNN. CNN's Daniel Dale, our fact checker, was closely listening to the president's remark to check out and suss out the facts there. Daniel, what President Trump had to say about Canadian dairy tariffs, is that accurate?
It was not even close to accurate, Jake. So President Trump said Canada treats the first little carton of milk that the U.S. exports as a low tariff product, but then after that, Canada applies massive tariffs in excess of 200%. It is not just the first little carton of milk that has low tariffs. In fact, under the USMCA deal that Trump himself negotiated, tens of thousands of metric tons per year of U.S. milk are treated as tariff-free by Canada. That is guaranteed tariff-free market access by Canada. And here's the key thing, Jake. The U.S. is not exporting even close to that tariff-free quota maximum, so none of those hefty Canadian tariffs above the quota level are actually being applied. And that was just one of the false claims he made, Jake. He also offered what I think is some pretty brazen alternative history, saying that the U.S. was at proportionally its wealthiest from 1789 to 1913. The U.S. is way wealthier today by any reasonable measure, including per capita income, living standards. And then he said that the U.S. would not have had the Great Depression had the U.S. stayed with tariffs. Well, there was a pretty infamous tariff in 1930, the Smoot-Hawley tariff, that is widely seen to have contributed to worsening that Great Depression. He also repeated his claim that the U.S. took in hundreds of billions of dollars that China paid because of tariffs he imposed in his first term. It is U.S. importers who made those tariff payments. Study after study has found that U.S. consumers and businesses ate the overwhelming majority of the costs of those tariffs. And so it is just not true that China was paying that money. He also falsely said that the U.S. had the highest inflation in its history under President Biden. Yes, of course, it was high. It was troubling, not even close to a record. And he said that gasoline is, quote, way under $3 now. It is true in some states, but the national average today, according to AAA, is about $3.24 per gallon, Jake.
Dude, if
Other
your
than
logs
that, though,
have
any
nothing in them,
factual
I'm
errors?
gonna
I'm just
yeet
joking.
you.
That was a lot. Daniel Dale, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Let's bring in CNN's Phil Mattingly and Vanessa
Yes,
Yurkevich
you're right.
to talk
It's
about
not
the
possible to do
economies
within Trump's
and
first
the economic
presidency.
impacts of this all.